Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start. Disclaimer before that. Thanks everyone for waking up at 9 or earlier, for coming here and listening to me talk. Big giant disclaimer, I'm here on behalf of myself, not anywhere I work or previously have worked. Any of the knowledge that I'm sharing with you is from my experience, and I care about you guys, so I wanted to share with everyone. All right, so my name is Natasha Irizarry. I most recently from OkCupid. I worked at OkCupid for the last 7 months. I'm now doing consulting work only. So you should follow me on Twitter. My last name is really hard to spell. So afterwards, if you want to follow me, just like come up to me and we'll talk. Sometimes I post, sometimes I don't. And I'm going to talk about data-driven UX design, but really what I'm talking about is data-informed UX design, and I'll get into that later. So these raffle tickets you're holding, I have 2 tickets to Converge, Florida. It is on November 7th and 8th here in Jacksonville. If you win and you cannot make it, we'll draw again. So I have 2. So we'll go ahead and do this if you want to. All right. I told you, they snooze, they lose. Oh no. Of course, 2 fell out. All right. So number 532195. Okay, come see me after and I'll get your information. You can make it and everything? Yeah. Okay. And 532191. You can make it too? Yeah. Did you win last year? No. Okay. It's like, you can't have it. I'm just kidding. All right. Well, that was fun. Come see me afterwards and I'll get your information, send it on to everyone. So I have a lot of information to fit in a very short amount of time because I'm sure everyone's going to want to ask some questions, or I'm hoping that you guys will. So if I'm talking too fast, just tell me to slow down. So agenda, I'm just going to like ramble on for about 40 minutes about data and design. There is an organization to this, but like an agenda is kind of pointless because you're going to forget about it in a minute anyway. Hopefully you'll walk away understanding that like it's not about UX design being data driven, but data informed. Okay, so show of hands. Who is a developer? All right, who is not a developer? Not a developer. All right, another show of hands. Who knows what big data is? All right, one of you, tell me what it is. Any one of you?
Nice.
Okay.
Instead of figuring out the schema before you insert the data, you figure it out after it's already.
Yes, okay, so that brings me to my next slide, and I love this quote. It's big data is like teenage sex. Everyone talks about it, no one really knows how to do it. Everyone thinks everyone else is doing it, so everyone claims they are doing it. This is a quote by Dan Ariely, and I don't know if that's his last name, but like this is what it makes me think of. So I'm just assuming that it's like Ariel from The Little Mermaid. So Google says that big data is data sets that are too large and complex to manipulate or interrogate with standard methods or tools, whatever that means. Like, like I read that and I'm like, whatever. It's just like stuff we learn, right? So before we get into the data part, let's talk about the local maximum. I feel like I'm talking too fast. Everyone up to speed? I have like 100 slides, so. Lots of gifts though. So the local maximum happens when you rely too much on like split tests. So the TLDR is you've hit your optimization limit. And this is what it feels like. It's horrible. So how do we get from here, which is the local maximum, your limit, to here, which is a better design that's innovative and just better, right? With magic. But in all seriousness, it starts by asking yourself why. There's a dude out there named Andrew Chen, and he has this blog that's pretty cool. And he has this quote that says, "Don't let shallow analysis of data nudge you off course." And that's something that's really important. For the last few months, I've worked somewhere where it's like data, 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 optimize, optimize, optimize. But I mean, we weren't really innovating. And so that led me to changing my talk pretty much completely to, I hope everything's okay back there.
Hopefully they're not doing teenage sales.
I hope, or hopefully they are. It's always before 9:30. So you want to let your data inform you instead of drive you. It leads to better results. So how do you understand data? So you want to take your data and you turn it into wisdom. You want to learn something from it. So data consists of discrete elements that are constantly being manipulated. This is what it feels like. Every time I looked at a piece of like quantitative data, I was like, "You're kidding me." My face melted off. And so in doing some research on actually running experiments and ran all kinds of experiments, I came across this hierarchy of visual understanding, which is actually very hard to understand. So data is discrete, like numbers and databases, and they help categorize and collect information. This is quantitative, so this is like numbers that you can see. This information can be linked together into ideas or stories. The information is then compared and connected, filtered, ordered, and all kinds of other things. And it organizes that information, turns it into knowledge. So this knowledge is sort of like chapters of a book. You want to look at it that way. This adds structure and interpretation, which then evolves into wisdom, like books and stuff, right? Because books are smart. And wisdom is action-orientated and has measurable efficiency. So the difference between data-informed design and data-driven design is, does anyone know? It's magic. But really, it's that data is not the message. So how do we make a better design? I know you guys aren't designers, but I know that you guys have all had to pretend to be designers, probably. So hopefully this will help you. In like design school and careers, we're always like told this. And it's that form follows function. Well, in my experience, that's true, but it's also that data follows purpose. Okay. So good design, it looks for meaning. So it goes through all these numbers and all this information, this book that you've made, and it finds meaning in it. But how? I bet you guys know how. With magic. But really, you want to use a human-centered approach. Think about who's using the product. Like, robots aren't using this. Well, they might be. But you want to think like a human when you're designing, even if you're pretending to design. I know, like, this is the startup track, right? Startup track? Well, everyone has to be a designer when they have a startup. And I'll get more into that. Because everyone does user experience. It's not just the like user experience designer. Everyone has a say in it. So the next thing you want to look at is your value prop strong enough? Like, if it's not, reposition it. Everyone knows what a value prop is. I'll go into it anyway. It's a promise of value to be delivered to like a customer or a user, and it says that the customer will appeal to that experience, right? So, for example, like OkCupid uses math to get dates. So at OkCupid, like, that was their value prop. They have a match percentage, and they're like, hey, let's let's get people to answer all these questions and we'll match them together. A value proposition can apply to an entire organization or parts of an organization, specific customer accounts, products, or services. So there can be one or there can be many. Go after a different audience and target their needs. So Apple did this, sort of. I did a little bit of research at 2 o'clock in the morning. And so on the iPhone C, because when the iPhone C and the iPhone S came out, I was like, the iPhone C is way better. And I argued this. I argued this big time. But the iPhone C wasn't meant to be for people who can't afford nicer phones. Instead, the iPhone C's primary purpose was to boost Apple's margins by cutting production costs and minimizing cannibalization of the iPhone, the 5S. It just so happens that it's affordable for people, and they totally get to take advantage of this, which is awesome. I prefer the 5C to the 5S, and I only have a 5, so. And then you want to recalibrate the core mechanic of the product. So how can you make your product feel more natural? So when you're looking through your data and you see that people just aren't clicking to it, like maybe it's because of this core mechanic. Maybe it just doesn't feel right. And it could be something like a slight hover state on a button to make it feel like you're hovering over it. Or something I like to say, the satisfactory click of a cabinet closing. Like it's the best feeling, to know that something's closed. It's just awesome to me. You want to make the product feel more natural because it helps the user. It provides them a tool without making it feel like they're using one, which is, we use our phones every day. We don't even think about it. Like my 1-year-old uses my phone and he knows exactly what to do, which is crazy. So human-centered design and understanding business goals will help you learn from your data. And this will even help make design problems easier to solve. So business goals, boring, but what are these? Magic! Am I talking too fast, everyone on course? Okay. So there are 2 things to remember when it comes to business goals, especially pertaining to this, is that there's key performance indicators, which I'm going to call KPIs, and objectives and key results, which I'm going to call OKRs. And this is how I feel about business goals. It's seriously TLDR, but it's okay. So KPIs measure things like click-through rates, subscribes, time on site, or the product, etc. And the OKRs measure internal team goals that are set up to measure a product's success. So these were invented at Intel and are used at a lot of companies, even Google. And I did some research, obviously, because I'm talking about this. Google sets their goals for OKRs like this. They make objectives that are ambitious. The key results are measurable. The OKRs are transparent throughout the whole company. And they have a sweet spot for their OKR grade, which is a 0.6 or 0.7. And I'll get into how to measure that in a minute. So you really when you talk about your OKRs, you really want to understand the business objectives and don't accept what you're told, right? You if you feel something, push back and make everything transparent so everyone agrees on one or a set of goals. So what are some products that measure data? Don't worry, it's not magic. Google Analytics. Google Analytics is a service offered by Google, and I'm sure everyone knows about it. It's a bunch of numbers and charts and stuff. They focus on page views, traffic, sources, devices. It's great. Google Analytics is great, and I think it's free, or part of it's free. So it's always fun. It's always fun to see the 5 people that have gone to your site in a week. Another tool is Optimizely, and they offer A/B testing. So does everyone know what A/B testing is? I'm going to go into it anyway. But A/B testing involves testing 2 versions of something. So let's say, example, a web page. So the A is the control, and the B is the variation, so the experiment. And you put it both out live, and you measure the effect that each of them has on to your conversion rate. So Optimizely is awesome for that. There is another product called Mixpanel. Is anyone familiar with Mixpanel? No one, no one, no one? All right. Mixpanel is pretty cool. It offers user segmentation and cohort analysis. Cohort analysis, it means that you take a group of people who share a common anything characteristic over a certain period of time, and you test on that. And back to the OKRs, I personally, I don't know like a secret algorithm for measuring OKRs. I looked everywhere. But this is what I found. These people know. So there's Purdue, Week Done, 7 Geese, and Better Works. And if I'm moving too fast and you want to write all this stuff down, just stop me at the end and we'll go back through it. So how do you implement it? Don't worry, still not magic. Metrics are a reflection of the product strategy that you have in place. So let's talk about the UX onion. So this right here tells you all about the different things that are involved in UX. The most important being utility. Is this useful to me? Does it meet my needs? Like back to form follows function, right? Like if it's not useful, then like really what's the point? Then there's usability. So I'm able to use a product easily. Back to going to using a tool without making it feel like a tool. Desirability. I like the way the product looks and feels. Apple, obviously. Sorry, I know there's a lot of Microsoft people, Windows people. I like Apple. Actually, I like the material design stuff that Google's doing, that Google and Android are doing, but I haven't made the switch yet. And then all of those make a brand experience. So it gives you trust in a brand. Like me, I trust that Apple's going to give me something pretty that works. So which layer of UX are you measuring, and how would you optimize that piece's performance? And this is how. So these are also adapted from Andrew Chen. So you want to create clear and measurable goals. This means that you answer questions for what is our product or service for, which is really important. If you don't know what you're doing, then it's really hard, right? Why does our website exist? Do designers and executives agree? And this is a big, 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 big thing to say here, because most of the time, they don't. But it's really hard to move on in optimizing for data when designers and executives are just butting heads all the time. And what activity do people need to do in order for your business or product to be successful? You have to really understand the answers to all those questions to make these measurable goals. So once you identify the main goals of your business based on a current strategy that you have, and this could be an example of measurable goals are stuff like total users acquired, revenue generated, etc. But you want to think like Goldilocks. You want to focus on something just right. For example, who cares about registered users? Sure, you get 1,000 registered users. But how about you look at registered users that came back more than twice? Or what about the people who bounce from some kind of upgrade or purchase page? Look at the data and solve for this. This next one's kind of confusing, well, to me. But create an Uber model that breaks down key variables. So I'm going to talk about this for a minute. So what specific actions do people need to do in order for you to meet your business objectives? Focus on breaking your goal into key variables that you have control over. And this can be really hard, but it's important to reach. For example, if you worry about users bouncing from a purchase page, then you want to track the incoming users to that page. So measure the incoming users, then the percent that bounce from that page, and then the percent that complete their purchase. and once you get that, you can really really do true experiments. Focus on separating out the variables so that if you get like 1,000 new subscriptions per day, you know how many are coming in and from what channels. And the more you break this down, the sooner you'll get to like variables that you can actually control and test. So you want to get quantitative and qualitative data. And this is what changed my talk. So quantitative data looks at things like A/B testing, data mining, eye tracking. Google Analytics does this, and usability benchmarking. And this is an example of what that sort of looks like. A lot of numbers. So TLDR, quantitative data looks like a lot of numbers. Qualitative data looks at things like usability lab studies, focus groups, phone interviews, etc. I had an experience where I went out to the Meetup headquarters to do some usability testing, and they had like a cheap little setup with this like iPhone, and just watched me go through it. And they learned so much from that, actually, because now they have it in their app. But like this means like focus groups, you know, in-depth like interviews, all the stuff here. It's like qualitative data is stuff like warm, fuzzy feelings, right? It just feels right. And I say that a lot. Like, this doesn't feel right. And it's because like it's awkward. Like, no one wants an awkward experience. Or maybe they do. But I don't. The hardest part of this is to try to figure out how to improve metrics, but avoid hitting that local maximum. Don't ever, like, hitting the local maximum is just a headache. So then you want to generate these hypotheses around these key variables that you've learned. So like all these metrics that you've done and all these combinations, and you build this experiment, right? You execute this experiment idea, you put it out live. A/B split test is like the only way to do this. And so think of it as like the scientific method, right? Scientific method is the bomb. So like, look at your data and think about different hypotheses. Learn what metrics are influenced by these, by your changes or whatever. Build the experiment and conduct it. Don't be afraid to take risks, because you learn things from failing too. And I'm going to talk about a little personal experience I had. So when I first started at OkCupid, on my first day, the founder came up to me and said, "Natasha, I have this idea." And in my head, I'm like, okay, you have this idea, Christian Redder, you genius. I'm nervous, but okay, it's my first day, let's do this. And he said that he wanted me to try to improve, his words were pretty much this, improve the upgrade page. But I had no idea what that meant. Like, absolutely no idea. It's like, okay, I'm gonna do my best. So I did a lot of things. I did a lot of A/B testing, email marketing, like all kinds of things. And let me get back to the upgrade page before I get into that. So here are two versions that, that existed. This was the one that I made, and that was the one that already existed. Okay, so who thinks the one on the right performed better? Who thinks the one on the left performed better? You're wrong. The one on the right performed better. It's the right? The control performed better. And that's because I had nothing to look at. Nothing. Absolutely no, I didn't look at any kind of data. I just went by what he said. He said, make this. And I said, all right, well, here's what I think. And this gets into the whole, like, you know, you can be like a great designer, but again, form follows function, you know. You have to understand what you're designing for, and I didn't. So I tried other things. I went through and I did the things I talked about earlier. I repositioned the product. I went after a different target audience. I tried recalibrating the core mechanic of the product, which was difficult to do, but I wanted to make the subscription service, which I personally believe in, feel that it was the actual product and not the free service. Is everyone familiar with OkCupid? Sort of a little bit. It's a dating site. So here are some different variations that I did. So this one right here was targeted to people who are free users who celebrate their 3 3-month, 6-month, and 1-year anniversaries. And we targeted them through email, through a modal window, and through a masthead, and showed them this. And it only, I mean, it performed, technically it performed well, but it didn't perform like well enough. So again, I failed, and I was like, ugh. I'm not a bad designer, like what is wrong with me? So, and then I tried these. So OkCupid has these things called boosts, and they boost you during certain times of the day. So we tried a countdown, which actually worked really well, and one without. So that's what I learned from there. And actually, this feature table performed better when it was full width, which is crazy, right? Who would have thunk it? And then I just tried the same upgrade page, the same style, or the same layout, just updated, with the feature table and the payment table. But like all these failed, pretty much. Like in their eyes, it failed. And that doesn't mean that I'm like bad. It just means we learned that all this stuff doesn't work, which is something that like we never knew before because no one tried it, no one tested it. And I hit diminishing returns pretty quickly. Diminishing returns is when like your level of profits or benefits gained is less than like the energy invested. So then I learned that you can't collect enough data to validate your responses just from quantitative data. So like it doesn't matter what like Google Analytics or like in OkCupid's example, like their personal like tracking system, like that didn't matter. Like obviously, like I looked at it and I designed for it, but what we didn't have was the qualitative data. Like you need the qualitative data. You need those warm and fuzzy feelings, and I will get into those tests in a minute. So there has to be a balance, and my idea of design is a balance between intuition and evidence. So going back to like what feels right? It has to feel right. But at the same time, like if there's like Google did a test of like 42 different shades of blue, right? What a waste of time. But now we all know that like a certain blue makes people click, so now we don't have to do that, right? I'm just kidding. Don't listen to me because I'm going to contradict myself in a minute. So here's some real life examples. Twitter changed to this flow right here in their sign up process. Because the first one over here, it was like when you first signed up, it showed you all these popular people. And it's like, all right, I don't care about like Chris Brown or whatever. I'm trying to think of people like pop people I don't like, which is like really hard because I love pop. And then they switched it to giving people categories, right? So that's the one in the middle there. So you choose a category, and within that category, you follow people that fall in that category. And then they changed it again, and now I believe, I didn't like try to get around it, they forced you to start following like 15 people before you can actually use really use the site. So they pretty much walk you through how Twitter works by like pretty much looking at like your cookies or whatever. I don't know the technical thing, but they obviously know. They obviously know that I like CNN because I go there every day. Apparently I like Tim Tebow because my boyfriend beat him in a race twice. Had to Google it, So this is an example of what Twitter did when the designers looked at their data and said, okay, we need to fix this. And it's pretty, and it works for now, right? Facebook did something awesome, totally awesome, but very controversial. And this is their deactivation page. And so this is what it looks like when I go to deactivate my Facebook page. All these people that I talk to the most on Facebook, it says, these people will miss you. And this accounted for 1 million members not leaving. which is a lot. And one project that I did at OkCupid is this one, and it's an email. And we saw that bounce rates were really high from that upgrade page. And me, like, I got to pretty much do whatever experiment I could dream of. I remember sitting down making this, and the original headline was supposed to be like, don't bet on the wrong horse, and it was supposed to be a unicorn. But of course, I changed it to be something completely crazy. And it says, find that extra special someone, save 20% on A-list today. Has a whale pretending to be a narwhal with an upside down ice cream cone on its head, right? This experiment proved successful and increased monthly revenue by like 11 or 12%, which is a lot. It's like $500,000 a month. So now I'm going to go into the principles of metrics-driven design. This is adapted from Joshua Porter, who, like, I'll put this deck up somewhere. He has an awesome deck on this, so you guys should check it out. So number one, no design survives contact with the user. But really, I feel like it should say this. It should say that no design survives first contact with the user. Because designs evolve as they should, like people change and how people use things change. Small improvements taken together yield huge results. So you know how people say like fail fast? Even I say this, I'm all about like fail fast, save money. This is what this means. Make small changes together to get huge results. Example, in Arlington, Virginia, adding 2 extra cars to their 6-car metro rail, like, it didn't seem like much, but it's the equivalent to widening a highway through Arlington by 2 lanes. So it was cheaper and faster for not only the city, but the commuters as well. You want to optimize in small steps and innovate with daring leaps. Optimization gives you the best of your current design, but not the best of all designs. Take your optimizations and innovate them by putting them together in an organized manner. So like, you have all your data that says, okay, people are like, for example, my narwhal email, and said, okay, I've been on OkCupid for 8 years. It was fun. Like, it started off with like all these tests and stuff. So I'm just gonna like make something crazy up, put it in there, but apply all the data that I learned. Like, that people want, they feel like they're paying too much. So they bounce, right? So that's what it felt like. So I put that in there, and then I put my design intuition, that qualitative fuzzy feeling, and innovated, and everyone was wary of the narwhal email, but it did really good. So everyone but me, I knew it was right. Testing is empowering, but a reversion is cleansing. And I'm sure you guys know this. I'm sure everyone knows this. Test and learn, and put something out there for people to use. Metrics are not creative, human beings are, right? So narwhal, like, who would have thought of that? Me. All team members are responsible for the user experience. And I've worked at some places, and most of the time people are like, here's my problem, solve it. You know all, because you're the user experience designer. But like, Dan had a talk yesterday, who here was in Dan's talk about what the user experience process? Just one person, 2 people? His presentation hit it like right on the nose. Like, it's not just about like making things pretty. And like, while I am confident that I can make something pretty, I want to make sure that like it works too. And I only know so much. So for example, like, I know that parallax stuff is pretty, right? I know that people react to it. They feel an emotional connection to it. But developers know that it's like a pain to code or something like that. Or like a lot of loading, especially on a mobile device. I don't know that stuff. So everyone's responsible for the user experience, even like business analysts and stuff like that. Like, everyone is responsible. If metrics aren't actionable, then they aren't useful. So what is an actionable metric? It's one that ties a specific and repeatable action to observed results. Everyone understand that? It's kind of like hard to, like, how do you define actionable, right? Another thing to remember is design is never done. So that build, measure, learn cycle of like lean UX, like that, I apply that to like everything, like all of my work. And I've done this forever, because I would try to make like Natasha Irizarry.com like 1,000 times, but like I can't keep it up because like I just don't want, like I change my mind every day. Like example, I change my slides at 2 o'clock in the morning. Who does that? And like the most important thing, like no data is important but your own. So back to the Google 50 bazillion blues, right? Like sure, they learned that, but like if your site is the majority of it's blue, like, and you change it to that blue, say your site has a blue background, you change it to like the blue that works, it's not gonna work because it's too much blue. So testing is empowering, and some things that work for some companies may not work for others. Be mindful of who you copy from, because they may have copied it from elsewhere, and never design in reaction to competition, because like it's probably not going to work. So I'm at like 36 minutes, so good, because this is like my last couple slides. So TLDR of all of this is use your data to help you build an emotional experience. Don't be afraid to innovate. Take those chances, because no one wants you to end up being a robot. Okay? Q&A. All right. Yay. All right. Good. TLDR. I am in a room. I have been asked this. Too long didn't read. Too long didn't read. TLDR.
That's what happens when you send her an email that's more than 2 paragraphs.
Like no, I don't even reply. I just say it over the cube, like TLDR. Anyone? This is a lot. Like this is a lot to take in, especially at 9:15 in the morning. Anyone? Yeah.
You mentioned about how nice it is to use things, or the parallax views, things like that. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about schemorphic design?
However a designer feels. I hate it. Although, like with that said, like it works for some things. Like it works for like kids, designing things for kids. It works really well for them learning. Personally, like every designer right now, I like things that look flat, but still have like a feeling of dimension, right? Like the trend is like having a flat design with like shadows and stuff. I hate the shadows. I don't know. I like to set things up on a grid, and I like baselines. I look at a design project. I'm sorry, I just like smacked my mic. I look at design projects as like math problems, which is weird. So I don't view myself personally as like an artist. So I say, all right, well here is the problem, and here are all the different solutions. I literally like write it down in my sketchbook, the problem, and like a list of different ways to do the solution. And my different like comps and different designs or like prototypes, all of those are just different formulas to attempt to solve for that problem, if that makes sense. So schemorphism, it's okay for some things, but like not for everything, right? Anyone? Go ahead.
You kind of jump between, I did all this data, quantitative, to I made this amazing email that paid $500,000 a month.
Yeah.
So you said you examined yourself as an you've been user. Did you do any other analysis of other users?
No, and like I said before, like this is on behalf of me, not OkCupid. OkCupid doesn't do that. And that's something that I felt that was lacking with that. I felt that we would have made such a better product if we paid attention to the feedback. But I would go through the feedback emails and read them all, and like in my team's defense, like it's all like, oh, I can't get a date. Well, like it's not our fault you can't get a date. Like sorry. But like the stuff that was helpful was like, specifically on the mobile app, is like, hey, like I have no way of seeing like who I visited. So we made a history page. Like we were able to like go through some of it, but like we didn't like go through and do like user testing. We just experimented all the time, which is like, you know, like I said, you can only do so much. And the OkCupid blog, there's a new post, and it's the first one in 3 years, and it's about experimenting on like the OkCupid population. So like we could push out like a 1% experiment and it would hit like 100,000 people, right? And so we would get really fast results from those experiments. But all we could do, like all I was told to do was like change one element of like a page and test it to 1%. And like to me, like there was no real innovation in that. Like let's get a focus group in here. Let's take advantage of all these like in the cloud usability things. Like let's do that. But like it just didn't happen, which is sad because I think it could be so much more. But like I feel like what I brought, like when I went to OkCupid, what I said to them was, you've given me so much. I want to give back to you, right? I made friends. I've been on there for 8 years. It's been alive for 10. So like I stopped listening to like, I stopped listening to like what people were telling me, and I went with my gut. I went with like, okay, Natasha, OkCupid user, what do you think is cool? And pretty much like everything that I tested, actually like, that was from my gut, which was like majority like the emails. Did a bunch of emails. Those turned out to be like, help out a lot. Like the experiments were moved into live, 100% population stuff. Anyone? Go ahead.
A couple of questions. Like, if you're just simply making a change to a page, the way it's laid out, like a full width across for the features or not, versus something like a countdown clock. Like, was the countdown clock like? Did it really expire after 24 hours? Was that something you had to coordinate with the developers?
Yes.
Well, okay. Versus, like, how quickly, if it didn't have to, I guess, work with the developers, how quickly did you iterate, with those 1% tests, to try something else? If it
I want to say,
that you wanted?
my job, this is what was told to me, Natasha, you are a fast worker. You put out these experiments as fast as possible. I think like OkCupid itself has like 6,000 different experiments going on every day, which is a lot. I didn't do 6,000 every day, but I did a lot. So like that countdown thing, it was probably took like a day maybe to build, half a day to like work. I like paired with a developer, and we just like, I was like, here's what I'm thinking, and he started building like all the backend stuff, and then I just did all the visual design. But after that, we left the experiment up for like, sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's 2. And there were all kinds of different experiments going on, like sign up, like the sign up page, like those upgrade pages. And when I left OkCupid, I put up this version of the upgrade page without any prices on it. I don't know how it did. It's driving me crazy. But something that I learned, like before I was like even in Jacksonville living, because I moved in January, I worked at Ally Bank. And at Ally Bank, we had a usability testing lab. So we got to get that qualitative data. And we found that people are more likely to click on like a big hero banner, like 16% more when there isn't a number present. So I was hoping that maybe like an interest rate of some kind. And like not like the bad interest rates, like the good interest rates, like for your like CD or whatever, right? So I thought to myself, all right, so this is something that I learned before from like some qualitative data that I'm gonna apply to this and see if it works, but I have no way of knowing. Well, I do. I'm probably gonna like text someone and ask them, how'd that test go? But yeah. Anyone? We're right at 44 minutes. I don't know how long these talks are supposed to be. 1 hour? I had 100 slides. The same thing happened last year. It was done in like 5 minutes. Daniel.
So, I mean, obviously we'll see news all over the place, you know, OkCupid, Facebook doing experiments that are not supposedly, I guess, ethical to some people they are. You know, like the last one about the profiles, removing data.
Yeah.
President. So what's your take on that, working there and seeing inside?
Working there, I think, okay, I thought the experiments were really cool because you get to learn a lot about people. Creepy, but cool. But me, I'm very curious, and I know the people that run those experiments personally, and I know that these people are not malicious. Like, I don't know Facebook, but I know at OkCupid, all the experiments that we run, or that, I guess I should speak in the past tense, but I'm not going to. Sorry, video. But all the experiments that were ran, were to try to make the product better. And I think that OkCupid itself avoided the qualitative part of it just because they didn't want to deal with the people who are like, I can't find a date. It was like, sorry. But with learning the blog, for example, there's one thing that stands out on the OkCupid blog for me that has stuck with me, and it's on OkCupid you answer a bunch of questions, right? And I answer a bunch of questions, everyone here answers a bunch of questions, and you're matched together through math somehow in science with this number of results, right? And through answering all these questions, OkCupid found that if you're on your first date, right? Say you're on your first date, what you want to know, right? Certain things you want to know. One of these you want to know is probably, is this person going to sleep with me tonight, right? I know this is family oriented. Sorry, I do this every year. Could only be, sorry. So instead of saying, hey, do you want to hook up tonight? Men, and this is geared towards women, ask, hey, do you like the taste of beer? Because apparently 60% of women who have answered the question that they like the taste of beer has also answered the question that they are likely to put out on the first date. So it's stuff like that. And there's a lot of insights blogs that I like to read, and there's weird ones. One of them is the Porno Hub one. It is safe for work, and they have all kinds of crazy insights about basketball and stuff that you wouldn't even think of. So you guys should check that, check those insights blogs out.
That works.
You could. Well, at OkCupid, nothing was taboo, but you could, because you won't get an ad, you won't get a pop-up, there won't be anything, you'll be safe. But I'm not really responsible if you lose your job. Anyone else have any? Don't be shy, ask questions.
What would you do at a focus group?
I don't know, focus? I'm just kidding. Sean was once my boss, and he would always be focus, because I'm ADD all over the place. I don't know, at focus groups, I would, there has to be a point to a focus group, right? So let's say you want to learn more about, you want to learn what people know about online dating, example, because I've been in that world for a few months now. A lot of people, they don't know much. They know that it exists. They feel like it's taboo. And through these focus groups, you can learn that, okay, a lot of people think this is taboo. Why? I don't know. The internet's there, why don't you use it? And you can find out why. And these focus groups allow you to have that feeling of empathy for these people, for these people that aren't comfortable with online dating. Okay, so bring them in slowly, right? Don't just push all these people at them. One focus group that I did was on and a lot of companies do this, Gatorade, not me personally, my boyfriend, he went to a Gatorade focus group and tried 1,000 different flavors of the grape one, right? just to get like the right grape flavor, which, you know, like, I guess like that's another example of a focus group. Like on Mad Men, they had a focus group for women with like cold cream or something, and like Pond's cold cream, which I still use to this day, and that was made a long time ago. So it's like stuff like that. Like focus groups really help you gain, like, be able to enhance your product and hear directly from like the consumer or the user, or the person, like what they want and what they need.
So how do you balance that about the, you know, I guess the black swan effect of epic focus group failures, like focus groups passed on Seinfeld, what happens when your gut comes in? It's like, this focus group is an idiot.
I feel like that a lot. There's a show, since we're talking about shows, called GCB. Have you guys ever heard of this? It's like this like funny like parody on like an overly religious like Texan family or something. It has Kristen Chenoweth in it. It's so good. It's on Hulu. You should watch it. And they canceled after one season. I was like, what? Like the internet, like everyone on the internet, like Reddit was like, what? Why? And like, you know, I don't know. Like I'm not gonna waste my time fighting the man. Like there's these focus groups and they have epic failures or whatever, but you learn from that failure, right? So like Seinfeld, for example, like they're having a reunion show, right? Or it's rumored. Something's going on in New York City where they're shooting things. So like, you know, I wish I could answer that better, but I can't. I'll think about it and then I'll tweet it. I'll tweet it out. So follow me on Twitter. Anyone? We're at 51 minutes, so don't be shy. I know it's early.
How about books to read? Books to read.
I read a lot, but there actually aren't a lot of books. Let me go through my library. There aren't a lot of books on like data and designing for data and stuff like that. All I found were like slides, but I did find one book. Sorry, I'm looking for iBooks. I know it's in here somewhere, because I was reading it last night. Okay. A good book that I'm reading right now is called Designing Great Data Products, and it's an O'Reilly book, and I think it's free. So in the
Designing Great Products.
Designing Great Data Products. Another really, like all the Rosenfeld media books are really good. So like I just read one on prototyping, and that actually has stuff in there about using data in your prototypes and stuff like that. So the Rosenfeld media one. The Hillary Clinton book is really good, guys. But yeah, I don't know. Once I'm out of work, I don't really like read work stuff, but when I'm at work, I read work-related stuff. Right? So those are some books I like. I would check out the Rosenfeld books. They're really good.
What about Donald Norman?
I don't know.
Donald Norman.
Is there a specific title?
Design of Everyday Things.
Oh yeah. I love that book. Really good book. I have to hear the title and not the author, because I see it. It has like the tea kettle on the cover, right? Yeah. Awesome book, The Design of Everyday Things. I believe like last year when Scott Hanselman was here, he had me on his podcast and we talked about the book a little bit. And then I brought it into another book that's called Design Yourself, or Designing Yourself. And in it, it has really interesting findings. Like if you make your like family room, or like the room that's most gathered like in your house, like rounded instead of squared, it has like a warmer, loving, like more like close feeling. It's weird.
That could be a great third book in your series, Engineering Yourself.
Engineering your perfect self.
Yeah, I'm actually.
Using your child and your society.
You know, I'm actually in 2 weeks I'm speaking at a conference in Sweden. It's called Hybrid Conf. If anyone is interested in going to Sweden, I have some sweet discount tickets, 40% off. just come up and talk to me, but it is like in like 2 weeks. And I'm speaking about how I pretty much like put my middle fingers up to the world and started applying UX methodologies to my life. So like practicing what I preach versus like just giving in to what people tell me is like the norm. So me doing experiments in my own life, and I'm actually I have a URL I'm working on, 3monthvacation.com, where I'm starting to like dive into these things that make me uncomfortable as far as like user experience goes, like applying those things to my life, like dressing differently. Like normally I'm like in a hoodie and like some jeans, so like I use a subscription service to send me clothes so I can be more comfortable with who I am. So I'm talking about that in a couple of weeks. Any other questions? There's like 4 minutes.
Since about 97% of statistics are made up on the fly and lost anyway, how can you be assured of the data that you're looking at actually means what you think it means?
Testing it. Like just testing it. Like without hitting that local maximum. So like looking at the quantitative data, like Google Analytics and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know the like statistics online on that part, but like numbers don't lie. I think like, especially like when it comes to like when I was working at OkCupid, like all the data that I saw was like legit. But I came to that like for example, when I went to Meetup for that that usability test, like they're like, you know, people don't usually go here for this. So there's always that like outlier, right? There's always like that person or that like does something differently. Just like test, try to hit what the goals you want to hit. Set the right goals. I think coming up with a plan of attack of some kind is like the best way to start before you start testing. 3 minutes. Anyone else? OkCupid questions, bring them on. Right?
How can you tell if you're on the local maximum as opposed to the optimum actual?
So it's really when you stop seeing like real results coming in. So like let's say you have a landing page, right? You have like a lead generator, and you want to test like required fields versus not required fields and button colors and all that. When you run out of that stuff, like when you run out of things to test on that page, like you've hit your local maximum, like make a new page. Like if it's still not performing and you've tested everything, make something new. And then test that versus, and that's what happened with the upgrade page at OkCupid. Like he came up to me and he said, hey, we ran all these tests and we hit our local maximum. Think of something crazy. Do whatever you want, and we'll test that, and then refine from there. So like there were more upgrade pages that I did where I did like that feature table, and I made it wider, and it outperformed the other version, and like just like making everything modular pretty much, and like connecting it into the page. So like yeah, like optimizing. So like you'll hit your local maximum when you can't test it anymore. Like 1 minute, anyone else? Anyone else? I know it's the most boring topic ever, right?
So in OkCupid, what was the main reason why they did not go to a real user feedback with usability lab test? Apart from the reason of people coming and telling I cannot find the data.
Yeah, I think that my honest 100% opinion on this is that everyone's just so introverted there, and yeah, yeah. Oh, it's everyone's very like. You think that it'd be like a loud office? Everyone's quiet, just typing. Just we talk via like chat, like right next to each other. We talk via chat, but like honestly, like that's what I believe. But I was told that they are going to be doing that, but like bringing in like usability testing and stuff like that, but I have no idea when.
So did you try to do that?
Yes, I begged. I cried and begged and whined and annoyed. But they did not budge. Okay?
I think maybe test responsive websites. I mean, it might test well on this side, but as it collapses down, it just falls apart and things like that.
Yeah, that's an awesome question. And I don't know. In the last year, I haven't really dealt with like testing responsive sites, but there are patterns on mobile that work better than desktop. Example like button size, like button radius, stuff like that. Hover, you can't hover on a mobile device.
Well, maybe not yours.
I guess you're right. Not yet. Okay, is there hover yet?
See me after this, I'll show you.
Ugh, I don't care. I don't want to know. All right, we'll test this mobile hover. But yeah, now I'm going over my hour. But I would say like look at patterns and test those, and if I was supposed to repeat every question. I'm sorry video. No, I remember. Test on mobile, look at those analytics, like get usability like I find that when you're testing like mobile stuff, the qualitative data, you get more valuable like learnings from that. So like when I went to Meetup, I feel like when I went there and got to like actually experience the product and like show them how I was interacting with it, they were like, oh, okay. So whatever this data, like this quantitative data said, was completely wrong. Like, and it's about finding that right balance. And I think it all works like sort of the same. All right, I'm over my time now. Not that I care, but